All right. Okay, Pam. So what are we making today?
We are going to make Huevos Rancheros.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's eggs.
All right, yeah.
And rancheros, I think, just says it's going to be really cool.
Okay,
So,
cool. So
yeah.
is this pretty easy?
I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
And I think what I like about it is hopefully people can have maybe some jarred salsa. If you want to make fresh salsa, that's awesome. And I
Yeah.
always think when fresh is involved, it's just going to up the flavor of it and obviously the nutrition. But I think these are really nice options that, can cut that part of the food prep to a minimum.
Okay.
We're also going to use some canned beans.
All right.
And I know we have multiples of things, but I'm a comparison shopper, so I'm real mindful when I've got a certain budget that I'm working with. If I have things that I want to look for the quality because it's a brand specific, or if I'm just trying to really say what can I get by with and yet still have a really good tasting results. So
right.
I want to be mindful of what the options are.
Yeah.
So
we got two here.
the beans, if they're canned, are
Yeah.
probably going to maybe have some sodium issues.
Yeah.
And again, we don't want people to be phobic about sodium and salt, but processed foods are going to be their higher content. So what I really liked about this brand right here is it's an organic from Walmart. So
Okay.
their pledge is to try to really increase their organic offerings. And again, organics is not necessary for everything, but I think there is a quality assurance when the government is backing some of the things that they say are going to be associated with an organic choice.
Okay.
So anyway, this brand actually was more expensive than the
Yeah.
organic. So I just want to dispel a little bit of the misunderstanding that organics are always more expensive. That's why you need to be a good shopper. And
Yeah.
do your homework and do that cost comparison.
Yeah, and I know also for me sometimes, I know I don't need to necessarily watch sodium, but for people who do, sometimes they do offer those options.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was looking
low
over
sodium.
here. Yeah.
Looking at it.
This isn't necessarily black beans, but Walmart is also offering this option.
Okay.
It's already cooked, but less sodium. So the canned version might, if there's not that low sodium or no sodium option in the canned version, maybe we can also have affordability here.
Okay, so that's
This was
another option.
a little bit more than this, but it still gives us something that's affordable, maybe $1.10.
Yeah, and you can stretch your food dollar a little bit more if you buy dried too.
Exactly.
And then you can save it the rest for later for other
Awesome.
things. Yeah. All right.
Okay, so what we've got is some tortillas, and again, saw a variety of different ones. We're trying to do changes to our diet, right? So
Yeah.
On the Road to Health is saying incorporate more fiber choices.
Mhm.
Whole grains are going to have more fiber in them than when we used enriched or bleached
white,
flour.
Yeah.
White flour. Thank you. So I looked at a couple of different varieties, brands. The Mission one is the one that we're going to demonstrate as well today. That
Okay.
has the whole grain.
Yeah.
And then I think you were mentioning that one did have more fiber, right?
Yes, it does have more fiber. It has about 15 grams per tortilla. And so that's something to consider compared to something that maybe the white version that says it's about 1 gram of dietary fiber.
Wow.
So it's definitely different. It's good. It's important time to pay attention to your nutritional label. I know it seems like a hassle, but it's going into your body. It's important to pay attention, even if it's just glancing.
And we know when it's a carbohydrate choice, if we put the fiber, if the fiber comes with the choice, it's going to help the blood sugar management.
Yeah.
It helps the cholesterol management. We're feeling fuller, so that's definitely an on the road to health strategy that we maybe haven't done before.
Right. Good
Okay.
point.
So we're going to take some of our salsa.
Okay. And you just have 2 simple salsas. They're pretty comparable as far as if you're really concerned about nutrition, but these are great. These look like good options.
Yeah, I like the flavor of that one. I
Yeah.
thought this one might have a little more name recognition to
Yes,
it, but
yeah.
certainly I think the sodium in salsas you kind of have to watch for. But the nice part is it's got some great vegetables with it, so I
Yeah.
think we get a little bit of a trade-off, and you don't have to use more than you want. So,
Very true.
all right, so we're going to kind of divide that between these two.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and turn on the skillet too, so we'll be frying up some eggs.
Yes.
Before we put it all together.
And when you get the next part, it's going to be putting these beans. I'm going to take a towel. Always think about that. You never know where your cans have been.
Mm-hmm.
And you certainly don't want anything that's on the top of the can getting into your food if it's not what you're expecting.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and rinse these. Excuse me, we're going to drain them. You can certainly rinse them if you feel like that's another way to get lower sodium, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were thinking about that. You can always rinse foods that you feel like have too much sodium on them when they're being processed, and that'll help reduce that amount as well. Gonna let that drain for a little bit. I think when you drain it, it just keeps too much of the liquid to make it this soggy. You don't want to do that.
Yeah. Alright. And then go ahead and just gonna put the beans on there. You're getting the skillet warm.
Right.
Beans right there. So we're actually going to be halving this recipe today. And we're doing, instead of 8 eggs, we're gonna do 4. So you're gonna divide it up if you're following just the regular recipe and kind of just watching it based on how it divides up.
And as far as your eggs go, I know a lot of people are concerned about cholesterol.
Yeah.
And the yolk is where you're going to find that cholesterol, but be assured that there's so many other, there's like 12 nutrients with one egg.
Yeah.
And we were talking about nutrient density in our
Right.
first session. So be assured that the eggs are going to be a great choice. 2 is like, well, 1 is 70 calories.
Yeah.
So we're going to be able to have probably for 300 or 400 calories a really nice nutrient dense breakfast.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
This over. That's good.
Okay.
Okay, so can we go ahead and start cracking these?
Yeah, and I'm going to just put a little bit of butter on here for you.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Eggs tend to kind of stick to whatever surface you're using if it's not a non-stick coating. So when you put a little bit of fat, and remember we have that fat soluble nutrition that's with an egg, so we're going to put a little bit of fat with it as well.
Not the best at cracking eggs.
Well, the good news is when your griddle is right and hot, it's going to help your egg cook.
So I probably should heat it up a little bit more.
A little bit, no problems.
Not gonna have enough room to get them all on there.
That's okay. And I know we talked about this. You're going to let this part become opaque. Right now it's a little translucent. You can tell when an egg is finished cooking or getting close to where you're going to be able to flip it over when this is starting to be opaque.
Okay, so like now?
Yeah, I would start over here. And see, we still have a lot of this transparency, so let's let that cook up a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're going to let those cook a little bit. So as far as the different cheeses, you want to talk about that one. I like pepper jack. I like the spice to it. You certainly can always include as many different spices as you like, but when it comes in with your product or the ingredient that you're going to use, then that kind of says, oh, I don't have to have a really big selection in my pantry.
Right.
I can already have it in my ingredients. So
Yeah.
that's a thought to consider.
That is true. And it doesn't have to be exactly what the recipe calls for, just what your flavor is. This is Colby Jack and Colby Monterey Jack.
Yeah.
So that's another option.
It's a little milder too. It
Yeah.
depends. Sometimes when you call for a sharp cheddar in a recipe, to me, it's almost a little dry. I don't know, maybe the sharpness of the cheddar.
Okay.
And it depends on what my flavor profile is. So if I like to have something a little more mild, I like to do that combination. And then this is the one I like when I want a little bit of spice in it as well. Okay. All right, so why do I want to buy it this way instead of pre-shredded?
Affordability or budget?
Yeah, because it's going to be more expensive pre-shredded, but
Okay.
as far as freshness, I
that's
am
a good
totally wanting to have not a lot of fillers, which is what you're going to find when it's pre-shredded because you don't want it to cake.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, now, much
Now
better.
it's
See,
good.
we've got most of it all baked.
Bring it. Put that
There you go.
Not made for this kind of work.
You got it.
Oh no.
That's okay,
It's
perfect.
fine.
Yes.
We'll make it work. Not gonna wear egg on there.
Yeah, and sometimes if our spatula needs a little bit of grease on it too, maybe that's something that we can think about. All right, so make sure that you have a nice grater. It doesn't have to be really fine. You're not doing Parmesan or hard cheese. So we want just for soft cheese, we've got a nice opening on our grate. And this is gonna allow us to have freshly grated cheese, which it's gonna melt better, it's gonna taste better, and it's just not gonna have any additives that you don't need. All right, so the nice part is that those yolks have already kind of pre-cooked with that one side, so those should be ready to move to our tortilla.
So you can leave them running, I guess.
Well, that's a great comment, because we want to make sure we have some food safety issues. So the standard for what we want is to make sure that it's got some firmness to it, so that it's not totally running.
Okay.
All right, so I think this one
I'm
might,
gonna go ahead and grab and buy my cheese.
yeah, this looks like it's ready to go. All right, so we're going to just transfer it over here.
Okay. And it will be in the oven too. So this
Yes.
will be going into a 300 or 450 degree oven.
Yeah, and that's a great thing to remember. If you feel like your egg wasn't totally cooked for the yolk, it's gonna finish cooking in the oven. Thanks
Okay.
for reminding me about that one. All right. This one I'm gonna let go a little bit longer because I wanna kind of continue that to be a little bit more opaque.
Okay.
All right, so we're ready to put these in, and I think what would be fun is to put maybe both cheeses, one on each egg. What do
Blend
you
them
think?
or
Yeah.
kind of mix them together? Okay.
Yeah. And this is the part when you've got kids helping you in the kitchen, they could do the shredding. That's, I think, a pretty safe activity for them. And then they certainly can be the ones that start to do the beautification of the meal, right?
Yeah,
I love it when
decorating
kids get to put their own little spin on something because they feel like they've had that personal connection.
So we're gonna do half and half, I guess?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And I'm a big fan of having freshly cracked pepper whenever I'm gonna do seasonings. So I'm gonna do this for sure. And again, anytime you've got something that's already pre-ground, you've just exposed more of the surface to being,
So it's gonna lose some of that.
yeah, the nutrition's gonna
Yeah.
be kind of depleted, if you will, and it certainly is a lot fresher. I mean, smell that.
Okay.
All right, we'll finish up with that.
This is probably good.
Yeah, all right, perfect.
Put that there, turn it off, and we'll put some cheese on this side.
Okay. And then after we finish with this one, to do the cracked pepper, you can always garnish with a little bit of cilantro,
Okay.
which I think is gonna make it that ranchero part as well.
Yeah. Good point.
But if you have
Flavor.
parsley, you can use any kind of, if you had some green onions, you can
Mhm.
certainly garnish with that. So
Good option.
always think of the way that you wanna finish the flavor profile that you're working on building. We had salsa, we had some black beans, we
Mhm.
finished with some cilantro. So our Huevos Rancheros are ready to eat.
All right.